Namaste. We have been talking about raga, which are the attachments that show up as one of the categories of the kleshas. In the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras, it says life is suffering, but suffering can be avoided. And then it talks about the different types and puts them into 5 different categories. The first one was ignorance, where we just don't know the true nature of the true self or reality. The second one was asmrita, which is the ego, which we discussed last week. And this week is raga, which are attachments. At the beginning part of the week, we were talking about attachments that we have to people, places, things, and how those attachments can create expectations and sometimes lead to disappointments, or we may have to relocate and we're leaving everything familiar behind, which can be hard on certain people, if you're not wanting to make that move. But today, what I wanted to discuss was the idea of how we can be attached to trauma. Trauma is something that I don't think anyone is immune from. I think we've all experienced some sort of trauma. Women experience trauma with certain births. You can experience trauma with divorce. You can experience trauma in a car accident. So there's many different things that can fall underneath that category. But what I want you to consider is that if we stay embedded in the trauma, if we don't work through it, if we don't process it, if we're not fully diligently aware of how we're getting triggered and try to work with that, then we are basically staying tethered to that point in time. It's like an energetic cord that has taken us back to that moment, to that feeling, to that emotion, to that situation that perhaps could have harmed us. And it takes time, to work through that. But that's why we do these practices like yoga and meditation, so that we can rise above, so that we can level up, so that we can evolve past that point. So we are going to start on the mat, and we're actually going to start standing. And I'll meet you at the top. So I thought we'd get right into it today. If you come, actually, instead of coming to the top of the mat, I'm just thinking about a pose we're going to be getting into. Leave about maybe 18 to 20 inches in front of your feet. And you don't have to lock in your legs or anything, but take your finger points to this hip crease. Start to hinge over at that placement until the flesh starts to come over your hands, and then you can release the arms down towards the ground. They don't have to touch, but the knees have a bend. And try to ensure that you're balancing the weight on the feet. And feel how this pose is stretching and opening the back side of the body. The back side of the body is where we tend to leave deposits from our past. So I would suggest deep breathing, but maybe a longer, slower exhalation with the breath. The leg bones may start to feel heavy. So let your breath calm you so it doesn't alarm you. Let your head fall heavy. Let your shoulders spill off your back. Your next exhale, I want you to put a deeper bend in the knees, dropping your seat about halfway towards the floor, and the hands can flip upside down at this point if they touch. Now I know this is going to intensify the sensation. Try to stay with it if you can, using your breath for support. What's happening is we're starting to gain strength in those bones and muscles from this weight bearing and holding us in this position. Now bring your hands out in front of you. This is where you may need blocks to just help stabilize. We're going to lift the heels off the floor. And you can still lean ahead. Again, hands to the floor or blocks to assist. Or you can rise up in your toe balance, stacking your hands to your knees and slowly erecting the spine. Finding a drishti point with your eyes. And then we're going to bring the hands forward again. And we're going to sink down to the knees. Now, it's okay if you need to lean forward because I know this is a lot for the toes. I have bunions on both of my feet, so I can't always do this position. But you can try building yourself up higher into Thai goddess pose. And then we're going to bring our hands into lotus if you're sitting upright. So Lotus Mudra is thumbs and pinky fingers together. The other fingers stand open like the petals. And breathe. And so that this doesn't become torturous, we'll go ahead and lean forward, hands to the ground or blocks. We'll pick up the knees, and it may be slow moving, but descend your heels, flatten your palms, and step back to plank. Now we're going to add in a couple little flows to bring a blend to the practice today. So as you exhale, go ahead and land your knees, rock forward and down with your chest and hips like a half chaturanga. Inhale, push back up, untuck the toes, lean back into child's. Inhale, rock up hands and knees. Exhale, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, take a deep breath in. Slow breath out. Do that flow again. Inhale, come forward to plank. Exhale to knees. Shift ahead, lower to a half chaturanga. Inhale, push back up. Exhale, untuck the toes and lean back to extended child's. Inhale, forward to table, and exhaling, downward facing dog. We're just getting a little bit more movement in the body. Inhale to plank. This will be our third final flow here. Exhale to knees. Lower to half chaturanga. Inhale, power up. Exhale, flatten the tops of the feet as you lean back. Inhale to table and exhaling to Adho Mukha Svanasana. Pressure down through the palms, lifting high through the hips and bowing the head. So this time we're going to sink down to the knees. We're going to untuck the toes and we're going to roll down to the belly. Once you come to the belly, take your hands ahead of you, maybe as wide as your sticky mat, and then prop yourself up into seal. I like to have my feet a little wider open, so that way my glutes stay soft, because we're not trying to grip the glutes here. If this strains your low back whatsoever, feel free to sink into Sphinx arms instead. Feel free to close your eyes. Calmly breathing calmly. Two more breaths. Let's roll to the chest. Take the hands up underneath, and you're gonna draw the navel in as you press up to table. And now we're gonna stay in table and create another shape. So the left shin is going to cross back behind you over the mat. The right leg will extend behind you with the foot flat. The right arm is reaching initially up overhead. So we're starting off in this modified side plank. However, we're going to begin to be more yin. So to do that, we're going to take the top arm cascaded over the ear, and we're going to push up through the ribs. So you are trying to create a curvature in your side body and lower your head. If by chance this right arm, if it feels strained at all, you can lower the arm in front of the chest and just let it hang like a rag doll. So either one of those positions will actually do just fine. Replenish your breath. On your next exhalation, bring the right hand down, your left shin back, and your right knee to join. We're going to take the right shin back, the left leg down the lane of the mat, and then reach the left arm skyward. So here you can see the ribs are more or less aligned and kind of flat. So now we want to create the curve. So you do that by pushing down into the right hand, picking up through the right side of your waist, and lifting through the left ribs. And then the head can fall heavier. And again, if this shoulder causes any issues or problems, try hanging it like this instead. Keep your breath nice and full. Now bring the left hand down, cautiously come out of that. We tend to think side bending is a little, more of an easier posture, but after holding it for a prolonged time, you can really feel that it gets pretty deep. Curl your toes under, launch back into downward facing dog. So that same area that you were puffing up, you're now trying to extend in this pose. Now we'll travel the feet forward. Now, again, not all the way. So remember how we started before? We had about, so much space on the mat ahead of us. We're doing the same thing. So soften the knees, fold into dangling. And what we're going to do this time, since this is our second round here, we're going to actually cross the arms behind the legs if that's accessible. If it's not, no worries. Just let your fingertips kind of cascade towards the ground. Otherwise, slide your forearms down your calves. It may close the thighs and the belly in to closer proximity, perhaps even touching. Lots of times our trauma stems from our past, and there's a big part of the population that feel like a lot of their trauma came from childhood. And this first chakra with the lower body, is about our safety, our sense of security, and our family roots. Even if the trauma didn't happen in childhood, it's still about our safety and sense of security. So think about, while you're in this pose, allowing that to be released from your body. Allow anything that's been deposited in your back to fall away. Those triggers in the mind to take you back to those times, let those fade away. Affirming here and now, nothing and no one on this earth can hold me down or back. I am here. I am safe. I am sound. Now release your arms, bend your knees deeper, lower the sits bones lower. That standing forward child. And then we're going to bring the hands in front. Use the blocks if you need to shift away from the heels, staying stacked on the toes. This may be where you need to be. You might feel the impulse to come up. If you rise up, we did the Lotus Mudra earlier. You can bring that into play. But this time, maybe setting the mudra over the crown of the head to represent our transformation, how we grow and evolve beyond our attachments, especially when the light of awareness shows us that it's harmful to stay attached. Bring the hands down, lower the knees to the floor. Again, you can stay here or come up. I got this. Feel free to add in a mudra to the heart or to the crown. Come forward to the hands. Lift and elevate the knees and ground the feet. Returning to dangling for a brief moment. Because now we're going to step back to plank. From plank position, exhale, land the knees. This time we're going to tip forward and down with the face, keeping the hips in the air, Ashtanga Pranan, different than half chaturanga. Inhale, glide through to up dog, and exhaling to child's. Inhale, table. Exhale, flow back to down dog. Full deep breath while you're here. Inhale, return to plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin, Ashtanga Pranam. Inhale, glide through and up, upward facing dog. Exhale to extended child's. Inhale, forward to table. Exhaling, Adho Mukha Svanasana. We're doing 3 flows in the mix of the yin postures today. So let's go ahead with that last one. Inhale, plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, glide through and up. Exhale to extended child's pose. Inhale, rock forward. Exhale, down dog. Additional breath while you're here. And exhale, land your knees. And untuck the toes. All right, we're going to shift the right shin back this time. Extend the left leg long. Uplift the left arm. And we're going right back into the side bend that we did earlier. Bring the right shin back, lower the left hand down, and then you're going to take your left leg off to the left side. Hopefully you have the space available. And we're going to tip back like child's. Now, if you can't do that with your right knee, which I think you guys can, you can always just lower to your forearms like this, keeping the hips up. That way you have at least an alternative. Now you can have your arms out and head down like child's, but I did this version earlier and I actually liked it better. And it's where we rest in prayer hands. So I'm going to try this again. Remember, as we hold these poses longer, you don't want to cross the threshold of pain or strain. So if you ever need to come out without my instruction, do that. That way you're listening and you're respecting your body. Inhale, let's rock up, hands and knees. Once you bring that left knee down, you're going to step the left foot forward. And we're going to take the half lunge. Depending on the floor you're on, you may or may not need a blanket underneath your back knee, but certainly bring it in if it's uncomfortable. I'm going to stay low here, but please realize you can also come up higher like this. I'm just feeling wobbly today, and I want to use my hands for stability in this pose. If you are up higher, come down lower. And we're going to bring the left hand to the inside. We're going to heel toe the left foot over to the edge. And this is where we're going to go into a low flying wing dragon. So you're just kind of winging the knee away from your side body. You can drop down to forearms, or you can bring a prop to a line underneath your forearms. Start to back away. Heel toe the left foot in. You may have to lean back with your hips a little bit to bring yourself back to table. Whew, that was deep. Now take your left shin back, your right leg down the length of your mat. Reach the right arm up first, and then lower it over the ear. Contract the left side of the waist, the side intercostals to give yourself a lift up through the right ribs. Let your top hand be limp. It's kind of the yin way. Like a weeping willow tree. Bring the right hand down, the left shin back to your mat. The right leg's gonna go to the right side, and you're slowly gonna sit back, unless you need to protect your inner thigh or knees, and you can plop down this way if this is not accessible. Now, some people prefer kind of creating it like child's pose. To me, my head doesn't quite touch the floor. And so when I tried this earlier today, I just liked it better. So you're welcome to join me, propping into prayer hands. Plus, it's a pressure point for the third eye. Inhale, come forward. Lower the right knee, but not all the way to the floor. It's just enough to step the right foot to the top of the mat for Anjaneyasana. And you can join me staying lower, or you can prop up higher. I'm actually more stable now on this side. So I'm going to stay up taller. Either close your eyes or set your drishti on one point that's unchanging and unmoving. Now, what this is doing is helping to release the psoas muscle. We were talking about the backside of the body can be a potential deposit area for things of the past. But the psoas muscle is also directly correlated to the nervous system. And it's also a muscle that is referenced with trauma. So even though this is the only muscle that attaches the upper and the lower half of the body together, remember we are trying to practice this klesha of raga, knowing which attachments are creating any type of suffering, and attempting to sever that so it's not as impactful. And the attachments also show up in the other piece of yogic philosophy, the 8-1 path with the parigraha, non-grasping, non-clinging, non-attachment. If you've been upright, lean forward. And then we'll move the right foot over to the side. You can even wing the knee away. You can sink down to the forearms and you can bring a prop up underneath. The low flying winged dragon. Inhale, let's lift our way up. Back the hips up to bring the right knee to join. And we're going to stay close to the ground now. We're going to come to our seat and then onto our backs. And we're going to do the windshield light twist from here. So basically the feet are about as wide as the width of your mat. You can even walk the feet to the seam of the mat. Your hands can reside on your belly. They can latch behind your head. They can also spread out shoulder height. But we're going to let the knees lower to the left side. now that we've been here for a little bit, see how your body responds if you prop the left ankle on your right knee. If that's unsatisfactory, it doesn't have to remain. Inhale, let's breathe. The knees up, lower the left foot down, and then rock the knees over to the right. Just keeping the knees and feet separate at first. Go ahead and stack your right ankle on top of the left knee, providing a little weight bearing. Again, if it's not satisfactory for your low back, you can release the foot back down. Now inhale, bring the knees back up. And as you exhale, hug them into your upper body. It should feel good to the low back after those last couple postures. Remember, you don't have to overly squeeze the knees because a little goes a long way here. On your next in breath, go ahead and fan the arms open and lift the legs upward. The feet can be active or passive, but try to align the ankles over the hips. And affirming new peace, new consciousness is flooding down and through my being. New peace, new consciousness is flooding down and through my being. Exhale, lower the feet down. And we are ready for our deep rest. So if you wanted to be in reclined butterfly, you can just fan the knees open, feet together. If you need support, you can add in blocks under the knees or a bolster under your thighs. And if you'd rather do just a plain old corpse pose, you can do that. Close the eyes. Go within. The knees are fanned apart. Go ahead and begin to lift one and the other. And if your legs were straight, bend the knees. Just rock the knees gently side to side. And then scoop them into your arms, into Apanasana. Roll over to your favorite side. And we're going to come up and sit in silence a little bit. So if you find your bolster, you can also sit on a blanket or block. Hands to the lap. Join your hands to under the light and the love inside of me. Honor and bow respectfully to the love and light in each of you.